Let's dive right into this explainer. Today, we're going to learn how to uncover the truth like a real investigator by mastering informational text features. You know, whenever you read an article, a textbook, or even a deep dive essay, there's this entire hidden architecture supporting the words you see on the page. We're going to look at the blueprints of that exact architecture. By the end of our time together, you won't just be reading words, you'll be actively navigating the evidence.
The source material actually grounds this whole investigation in a quote from Proverbs which states that a discerning heart seeks knowledge. This really highlights the foundational motivation for what we're looking at today. Because let's be honest, being a passive reader who just accepts whatever is written, that's easy. But according to this framework, it also leaves you completely vulnerable to bad information. A discerning heart demands proof, it demands context. It actively hunts for the truth rather than just feeding on whatever happens to be put in front of it.
Here's our blueprint for today. We'll cover the quest for true knowledge, open up your text feature toolkit, look at evidence in the field, explain why these features matter, and wrap up with morality combined with education.
Let's start with Section 1, the quest for true knowledge.
So, when we read informational texts, how do we actually know the author isn't just making things up, right? How do we separate a rigorously researched argument from a totally baseless opinion? Well, the answer lies right here in the source material. Text features are not decorations. They aren't just fancy little numbers or tiny text meant to make a page look, professional. They're actually shortcuts to deeper understanding and much stronger evidence. If you ignore these hidden clues, you completely miss the crucial background details, the specific definitions, and the actual proof that makes a text rich and accurate. Skilled readers know the real treasure is almost always buried in the margins.
Moving right along to Section 2, your text feature toolkit.
First up in the toolkit, we have the footnote. A footnote appears at the bottom of the page to explain a term, give extra facts, or cite a source. Basically, a footnote is your immediate receipt of evidence. It drops a vital fact right at the bottom of the exact page you're reading. Imagine you're reading a super dense historical document, and you hit a word you just don't know. Boom! You look down, and the footnote defines it for you without forcing you to pull out a dictionary. It's instant, completely accessible knowledge.
Next up is the endnote. Now, endnotes are very similar to footnotes, but instead of hanging out at the bottom of every single page, they're collected at the end of a chapter, or the very end of the book. Think of endnotes as a collected archive of proof. They keep the main pages you're reading clean and uncluttered, but they still provide all those necessary receipts at the very end for the discerning reader who actually wants to go check the facts.
Now, placing these two side by side really reveals a distinct advantage for each one. One offers instant clarity, while the other gives you a much more streamlined reading experience. If an author wants you to know a fascinating side story right exactly in that moment, they're going to use a footnote. But if they just want to prove they read 50 different books to write their chapter, and they don't want to distract you with 50 citations on a single page, they'll use an endnote to organize all those sources without interrupting your flow.
The third completely crucial tool here is the citation. A citation gives direct credit to the exact source of information. You've probably seen these in parentheses, maybe showing the author's last name and a year, or as a tiny superscript number. Citations are literally the ultimate credibility check. They allow you to trace a claim directly back to the expert who originally made it. When an author uses a citation, they're essentially saying to you, hey, don't just take my word for it. Here is the exact address of the data I used.
That brings us to Section 3, Evidence in the Field.
Let's actually look at how this plays out with 3 quick examples. First, imagine a Civil War article mentioning Gettysburg in 1863. The author drops a footnote. Why? To ensure you understand the historical significance right there in context, without totally derailing the main story. Second example, a nonfiction biography. The author makes this bold claim about a famous figure's secret life and uses an endnote. This proves their quotes are based on real research and actual diaries, not just historical rumors. Finally, picture a health article stating that regular exercise reduces heart disease risk. The author uses a citation, something like Smith, 2020. This lets you trace that medical claim all the way back to the actual peer-reviewed scientific study.
So think about this in the context of your own reading and research. How would a footnote help you in a super dense science article? Well, it might define a complex chemical term instantly so you don't lose your train of thought while reading. And why might an author prefer endnotes for a massive 500-page book? Because the huge advantage there is it keeps the main text visually clean while still providing totally rigorous proof. Most importantly, though, how do citations help you? Honestly, they empower you. They hand you the map to go and independently verify the facts for yourself.
All right, on to Section 4, why these features matter.
Seriously, ask yourself, Why do good writers go through the immense trouble of meticulously adding all these features to their work? I mean, formatting footnotes, organizing endnotes, tracking down the exact citations, it takes a massive amount of time and effort. So why do they bother?
They do it because good writers use text features to guide readers toward accuracy. It's really that simple. They want to keep their facts precise. A writer who actually respects you as a reader doesn't just demand your blind trust. They provide you with the tools to check their work. These text features are literally the very foundation of credibility. Without them, a piece of informational text is pretty much just a house built on sand.
And finally, Section 5, Morality Combined with Education.
Now that we've mapped out how to find the truth, the source material asks a pretty important question. What is the ultimate purpose of this knowledge? The HeroesmartAcademy Godly Learner series asserts that education without morality will hurt. The text actually intertwines biblical morality with education, arguing that a toolkit of knowledge is useless and even potentially harmful if it's just used to make bad choices. According to this view, knowledge is the tool, sure, but morality is the compass.
Drawing on Romans chapter 8, the source material notes a promise of peace of mind to those who maintain a spiritual mindset. In this specific framework, this is the ultimate goal of education. Pairing an informed, highly discerning intellect, one that knows exactly how to find footnotes and verify accurate facts, with a spiritual foundation. It's really about building a whole person, not just a smart brain. As we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with a challenge based directly on today's source. You now understand the architecture of evidence and exactly how to use text features to uncover the truth. But if we accept the premise presented here, that education without a moral compass is harmful, we have to ask the big question. Now that you have the blueprints to find the truth, what will you build with your knowledge?